Do you want to use the new input system in Unity? Well, this video will show you exactly how to do that. Let's go. First thing we want to do is go to Windows, Package Manager, go up top here, you will be in Project, you want to go to Unity Register, you want to look for Input System 1.3.0. If you have a later version, please continue watching because it most likely will still be relevant. Install, and then it will ask you to save scene and reload Unity. Just say yes and yes. Did you know it only takes 2 clicks to like and sub to this video? It's completely free, and if you end up not liking my content, too bad, it's mine now. Please enjoy this video. Once installed, you'll come back to this screen. I have a model here. You can use a cylinder or a square, it doesn't matter what you use. For my example though, I will continue using this model called Kyle. Get your camera on your character or your model, drag your camera under it to become a child of that model, like so. Then right click, then on the camera itself you want to position it, so we'll come over to the right over here on transform and press reset, and that will drop it to the feet. Then you just want to grab the Y or the green arrow, drag it up to the head. You want to add about head vision. That's all you need to do with the camera. It should stay there now in place with the model. On the model again, you want to go right click, create empty, and we'll call this one ground. And this is a ground check for us for later. On the environment or your floor that you've created, I will be linking these assets that I got from the asset store down in the comments, so please check that afterwards. But on my environment, I want to add a ground layer. I already have it, but I'll do it again for you. You go add layer, then user layer 6, you want to type in ground, then you go back to the environment or your floor, and you want to select ground. And then if you do have children like I do, you want to go yes, change children as well. That will change all of these to have a layer of ground. If you don't want them to have a layer of ground, you don't have to, obviously, but your character will fall straight through them if they don't. Now we want to go back to our model Kyle, and we want to add a character controller to him. We'll leave everything as default, but you can mess around with these variables if you would like. Then we want to add input, player input, not player input manager. We want player input. Add player input, and you'll see that it adds a component on the player itself. Then we want to go create actions. I want to create my actions within my script folder, and I want to call it controller. And then we want to save, and this will open a new window called controller input actions. These are your action maps, your actions, and your action properties. In player, you can see we already have a move, we have a look, and we have a fire. The move is already set for gamepad, mouse and keyboard, XR controller, joysticks. Look is also set, and fire is also set. So that's really handy of Unity to do all these for us. So we don't need to mess around with any of these, they're already set and ready to go, but I do want to add a jump action because we don't have one already, and I want to add that. So I'm going to go jump as the name, and then a new binding, path, listen, space for on my keyboard, press space as keyboard. And then for a gamepad, if we want to add a gamepad, you go add binding again. If you have the gamepad connected, press listen. If you don't, just go south, and that's button south. So on an Xbox controller, it would be your A button. Done. Now we've got space and button south under the action called jump. Now we can save the asset. This is important to save this asset every time. You can see by the asterisk that it is not saved yet. Then we can close. Now we can go to the input controller, and we have to generate a C# class. Generate, and then apply. And that will generate a script. Now while we're in here, we can create 2 more scripts that we'll need for our controllers. So we'll call one mouse look, and then we'll create another one called player movement. Now with those 2 created, we can open Visual Studios. So you can go open C# project. This will open Visual Studios, and then we can open those 2 scripts. You can just double click on them and they will open your default script editor, whatever you have. Now I've already created these scripts in a previous lesson on my channel. I'll link that now up on the top right here. Or you can stick around and you can just pause and copy what I'm about to paste. So in the player movement, paste. Don't pause yet. I'll tell you when to pause if you want to pause. In the mouse look. So I've got 2 bugs because the controller is a different name. I called it controller instead. Controller. You can pause now for the mouse look. Now moving on to the player movement. You can pause now for the player movement for the first half. Now you can pause for the second half. Okay, let's move on. In the player look, we're just getting basic functionality. If you want to get a more in-depth guide on what I did in this script, please go over to my other video and it will explain it better. But I will just quickly gloss over it. We are grabbing the input controls, the controller, we're setting a sensitivity for the mouse, X rotation, we're getting a vector 2 for the mouse look, and the transform of the player body. We're setting the player body for the camera to be transform.parent for the camera, so it stays on the player body. We're getting the controls as a new controller. Then we're setting the cursor to be locked, so it will disappear when in play mode. And then on the look, we're going and getting the X and Y value as floats, timesing it by our mouse sensitive 100. So if it's too fast, you can drop down that 100 to lower or higher, up to you. And then we're clamping the rotation for the up and down, so it doesn't go all the way flipping 180 behind you or going below and under your feet. And then we're applying that movement on the player body to actually rotate. In the player movement, quickly gloss over this one as well. We're getting a velocity for when we jump. We're getting a move, so when we're applying velocity to our movement. Getting the controller, we're checking if it's grounded, applying a move speed here, a gravity speed here, so go back down, and a jump height, so if you want to make it faster, speeding, walking, you can change that value there. If you want to come down faster or slower, you can change that value, and if you want to jump higher, you can change that value. We're getting a transform of ground with the layer mask of ground, and then we're setting the distance to ground at 0.4. It will register that it's touching the ground, so it won't continue to fall, and you can re-jump again. We're getting the input controller here, and then we're getting the component character controller. In movement, move the character, player move, read value. We're getting a vector 2. We're reading the value of the W key, for example, as a vector 2. We're giving it a vector 3 with a name of distance. Timesing it by Y to move forward, and then by X to move right. And then we are doing that again by times like delta time and our move speed variable. Then in the jump, we're checking if controller jump dot player jump dot triggered. So if spacebar is pressed, velocity y equals math dot square root jump height times minus 2f times gravity. And then we're putting a on enable and on disable. So controls are enabled, and then once controls are finished, they get disabled. And that is all that we need to know about the scripts. Like I said before, if you want a more in-depth guide on that, I have a video and it's linked up on the right, and it will also be in the description. So we can close out of the C# folders. We can go back to our model. We can drag player movement onto our model now. Now it's looking for a ground transform. That is our empty that we created called ground. Then it's looking for a ground mask, which is our layer that we created. It should be there, ground. And then we can keep distance ground as default. Then you go onto the camera and drag the mouse look onto the camera. And that is done. That is the player character done. So now we can play. And we can look. And you can see I can't look below my feet and I can't look above. I'm stuck. That's the clamping and in motion. And I can rotate. And I can move by pressing W, A, S, and D. And I can also jump. And you see the gravity in effect, it makes me fall back down. You can tweak with these values, of course, to make it come down faster, move slower, move faster, etc, etc. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and definitely comment, because I love your comments and I'll want to reply back to you guys. Have a good one. Bye.